I'm glad that he seems like he's doing really well. Not surprising.
The preparation that he had when he was 28 years old dealing with this situation in Detroit prepared him for this one so that he could actually deal with it in a non-emotional way, in a calm way. So, and the loyalty also impacted me.
Olas Media.
The views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of any entities they represent, including Olas Media.
Olas Media presents Dear San Diego.
To me, Dear San Diego is a look under the hood of San Diego's high performers,
a platform for newsmakers to come in and talk about who they are away from the
space, in the corporate space, the people that are making news. We get to look at their daily
to
activities.
lean into their personalities. Who are they? How do they make things work? What's the secret sauce?
Dear San Diego.
Hey, buddy. How are you?
Pretty good. How are you, Tony?
Good. Good to see you again.
Good to see you again.
So before we talk about our guest today, I just wanted to briefly just mention the experience I went through with Elizabeth and one of our boys, Alex, because I'm not probably overstating this when I say it's probably a once-in-a-lifetime experience.
Oh, yeah. The little champion. Tell me about it.
So 442 Little League teams in Southern California. His team finished second in the state tournament. Second place. And
so they went into the final, like that was like they actually played the final?
Yeah. So they won districts, they won sectionals, and then they went to states and made it all the way, finished second place team.
Wow.
Just a phenomenal run. It was 58 days of baseball, and I think they only had 3 days off. It was the all-star team for the 10-year-olds, San Carlos 10s.
Yeah, local team.
Yeah, KUSI covered it, CBS covered it. It was
It's a big deal.
It was awesome.
Big deal.
Yeah, so
That's great. How did he feel about it afterwards?
he was upset, sad, cried a lot that he lost, and they lost that game on a controversial call. Kids, bases loaded, tie game, 3-3.
Wow.
Yeah, kids slid into home plate.
Yeah.
And if he would have been called safe, we win that game, and we would have had to play.
Way.
Yeah, dude. Now we had one loss, and the team we were playing was undefeated. So we would have had to. If we had won that game, then we had to turn around and play them one more time the next day.
Because they had a better record?
They were undefeated, right? They were in the winners bracket. We had one loss. It was our only loss through this whole run. So we had the luxury, the parents and the coaches, of going home and freezing the video and blowing it up. And you could see...
He wasn't safe?
He was
out?
safe.
Oh, he was.
Yeah, you could see his foot got to the plate before the tag from the catcher got down there.
Yeah.
So but when you're an ump, and I am a volunteer ump, at making that call when the action's moving so quickly, it's
oh my God,
your eyes can't process that.
Yeah.
So that call is like a coin flip. It could go either way. It didn't go our way, so we went into extra innings, and then we just lost steam in extra innings. We ended up losing that game, so we didn't get to play the next day. But what a run! I mean, second place.
Amazing.
Out of 442 teams. So proud of them. And yeah, so he cried a lot. He was sad, but then he, for the first hour we were home, he transitioned his bag from Little League to travel ball. He put all because travel ball you get to use different bats and things. So we're
he was ready for the next one.
We're shutting him down for 2 weeks. Travel ball's already started, believe it or not. But we're shutting him down, resting him for a couple weeks,
That's
and
good.
then. But look, this Little League All-Star thing, quite an honor, quite an experience. But to make it that far, I don't want to hurt his feelings because I imagine he'll listen to this. But that type of run, I don't know that'll happen to him and that team again.
Or it will, and it'll just happen in the MLB. All right, this is Dear San Diego. Let's get started.
Yeah, so today, Juan, we're going to be talking to James Canning. You and I know James. For our listeners who don't know James is a communications director over at San Diego County. He was Nathan Fletcher's communications director for several years. And Nathan, as we all know, resigned in disgrace a few months ago. He announced, so we're recording this in early August. Nathan announced, shocked sort of the whole San Diego community when he announced in March that he was, first he came out and said, I'm an addict and I'm checking myself into rehab and I'm suspending my state Senate race, where he was a shoo-in for state Senate. And then a few days later, he announced, well, I'm actually going to resign, and here's why. There's this allegations that came out.
Yeah, I remember the controversy at the time, when it was happening at the time, and it was, they were saying that his call of being an addict, that he was just trying to sort of hide from something coming, right? Something big coming, and then it did come, right?
Yeah, people said, wait till the shoe drops. And I said, what? Really? I don't know. Maybe, So my attention immediately, well, I thought about Nathan and the situation and everything, but my attention immediately shifted to James Canning, who's Nathan's communications director. Because I know James, he's a friend of mine. And I had just been to James's house, his condo, and
Bankers Hill, right?
Bankers Hill, yeah. Cool bachelor pad he has over there. We'll talk to him about. But he cooked me dinner, and because we're Detroit, expats. Yeah. So he cooked me dinner, and we had a great talk, and everything. So my attention immediately went to him, like, what is going on with my man James? So we're going to talk to him about that. We're going to talk to him about, he has a podcast. We're going to talk to him about his love of cooking and the Detroit Lions, who I think are going to have a great season.
Maybe they will. No, I'm looking forward to this one. I think it's good. I think it's always very interesting, right? You can call it crisis management, right?
Exactly.
Crisis management. How do you react? What is the strategy? But then also, how do you prepare yourself personally to go out and deal with that kind of stuff?
Yeah, what was that situation like for him and his colleagues?
Yeah.
So anyway, we'll get into all that and more. Welcome to Dear San Diego. I'm here with my co-host, Juan Hernandez. And today we're going to be talking with James Canning. I should probably mention for all those who are tuning in to Dear San Diego for the first time, this is a public affairs podcast with personality. And we interview newsmakers. Not always, but for the most part, we interview newsmakers. And we're not journalists. I am a retired journalist, but former journalist. We're not here to just drill them and Q&A them to death. We will talk about the news, but mostly what we talk about is what makes these people tick, what motivates them, what are they like away from the office, and just who are they? Who are these folks? So anyways, without further ado, let's bring in James Canning. James, how are you?
Hey, how you doing? Dear San Diego, I'm proud to be here. Thank you very much.
That's awesome. Nice to see you, bud.
Nice to be seen, although these folks can't see me, but you can hear me. I'm 5'9". I have brown hair. I like long walks on the beach. If you'd like to know more about me,
he's handsome.
Ask these guys.
I can attest to that.
You have your own podcast, right?
I do. It's called Flack Talk. So it's like I flip the camera, or I don't do camera either. I flip the microphone on the journalists. So I'm asking them a bunch of questions about their lives, their careers. It's been a really fun little journey. It stretches myself a little bit in the
And
PR
where can our listeners find Flack Talk?
Anywhere you get your podcast.
Anywhere you get your podcast.
Spotify, flacktalk.com,
Flack
my
Talk.
YouTube channel.
I like it. I've listened to some episodes. It's kind of cool. So James is a communications specialist. He's a spokesperson over at San Diego County. So he deals a lot with newspaper reporters, TV reporters. And so he turns the mic around and says, okay, now I'm going to ask you the questions. That's a cool concept.
Which is funny, right? We just did it with Art Castañares from La Prensa, and it was the first time he said it. I had never had to open up. And we got into like his motivations, why he wanted to do it. Catch it at Dear San Diego in the next few weeks.
Yeah, I think it's fun. Like when I got here and was looking for jobs and opportunities, I got to meet with a bunch of journalists and to speak with them. You kind of realize like they're normal fucking people, and I think you see them on TV. You read their byline. Like there's a lot of people that are nervous to be engaged with them. And in my world, 20 years of doing this stuff, like you gotta have a real relationship. And if you build a real relationship, you get to understand it. But like the things that people would tell you just having coffee with them, right? Or having a drink, like, I don't know, talking about their baby diaper blowouts, talking about their kids going to school, how they got into this career. And some people knew they were going to do it. Some people knew they kind of fell into it. It's just like a fun, and I like talking to people. Yeah. Like, it's just a fun thing. Like, that's why I got into PR. I thought talking to people was all I had to do. And then I took a bunch of journalism classes. And the teacher goes, she failed me the first test. And I'm like, why? And she goes, because have you ever read a newspaper? When you read it, it's not first person, kid. Like, you failed.
You're not writing a column.
No, you're not writing a column. And so it funny. Just taught me. So I've always had this great appreciation for journalists. They've kept me employed.
Yeah, on that point, how did you get into this? Did you just fall into it, or did you know you were going to
I knew. High school, I figured out early on, I was like, hey, I want to talk. I just love to talk. Teachers would bitch at me about talking.
We were talking about my son Alex before you came in, and he has a baseball run. But he likes to tell his friends, my dad talks on the phone for a living.
Yes. I mean, that's a big part of it, right? My parents had no idea what it was. And I did it in high school. Like, I was the PR chair in high school, and I got to talk on the PA system. I was like, this is the greatest shit in the world. I just get to talk and talk and talk. And then you go to college, and they teach you got to write and write and write. And then you get in the real world and you realize, well, you're just the behind the scenes guy. And then you got to decide, are you okay with that? And I loved it. Because then you get to lift other people up. You get to kind of celebrate who they are or the organization.
But as a PR guy, sometimes you do have to be out front. You're not a lobbyist where you're always behind the scenes. As a spokesman, as a communications director, yes, we do like to fly under the radar and work behind the scenes. But sometimes we have to go out there in front of the curtain.
Yeah, I think, I'm originally from Detroit. And so my original jobs there, I was out more in front. And I've been here about 5 years now, so I've been a little bit more behind the scenes. And I like it both, right? I think it's really good to lift up the people that you work with or for. It's fun. And then, you go and take the bullets, you take the flak. You are the flak when the time comes.
The flak jacket. I probably didn't say that correctly. Sorry.
Flack Talk.
Yeah,
Flack Talk.
I know. Yeah.
No, but it comes from the idea of flak jacket. Like, I looked it up. Like, you got it. Like, you take the shrapnel, you take the heat.
That's
take
right.
the bullets.
Yeah.
So I met James because two people that I respect a lot reached out to me and said, you got to meet this guy. First person was a friend of mine at the Detroit News, and where I used to work before I came to San Diego, Joel Kurth.
Yeah.
Joel now has just been named executive editor of Bridge Magazine in Michigan.
Yeah.
So Joel reaches out to me over email and says, hey, man, this guy, James Canning, who worked for Kwame, Mayor Kilpatrick, he's moving to San Diego, and could you kind of show him the ropes? Yeah, okay. But then
Tony reluctantly, all right, I guess.
But then almost within a day, I think, then I got an email from Gene Walcher, one of the great PR pros here in San Diego County. Gene's a great individual.
Yeah.
Like her a lot. She reaches out to me and says, hey, James Canning, he reached out to me, and I think he would. I don't know why she thought this, but she said, I think he would learn a lot if you took him out for coffee and showed him around town a little bit. And so I'm like, okay, well, Joel's asked me to do it, and now Gene. So it piqued my curiosity. And so I invited him over to the office, and we had lunch, and we hit it off right away because he's a Detroit Lions fan. Not too many Detroit Lions fans in San Diego.
I think you two are the only ones I know.
Well,
Who's your team, by the way?
Padres.
Padres. Yeah.
You're like, I don't got a football team because the Chargers
left. Yeah, right.
Exactly. I never really liked American football between you and me, but baseball, Padres.
Padres, they're gonna. I mean, they're trying to. They're gonna have a tough road, but they're trying.
They're trying to get in
trying.
there. So, what about you, James? Like, when you met Tony, like, how was that?
It was good. He took me to a big Italian meal and was like, "Hey, this is my favorite place." No,
I'm half Greek, by the way. Half Italian, half. There's not a lot of good Greek restaurants though in San Diego.
Yeah, there's a lot of good Italian though. No, it was great. I mean, Gene, Rachel Lang was another person who told me about you. I mean, there was just a lot of folks that when I got here were very helpful in making the connections. And that Detroit connection, Tony told me, give me a little advice. I won't share it here exactly, but early on he told me, you got a little of that Detroit chip on your shoulder. You got a little of that work ethic. He said a couple things about the San Diego lifestyle. And he said, you're going to be okay if you just do that stuff.
Well, what I told him, Juan, and you've
Okay,
I know
if he
you
wants
know,
to share, he
Well,
can,
Juan
but
and
I was trying to keep it a personal moment.
No, well, so Juan and I work the same way, and James, you work the same way we do, and we work hard, right? Love that about him, love that about you, and it took me a while in San Diego because San Diego's got this sort of this laid back, flip flop fish taco vibe. People don't work on Fridays, and it really drove me crazy the first few years I was here, and you know, a mentor of mine took me out to lunch and said, just turn that around. Like, it doesn't take a lot of effort in San Diego to get ahead because most people are just sort of happy making $100,000 a year, working 3-4 days a week. And so if you work hard here and you do good work, you out hustle people, you're going to do well in San Diego. I thought that was really good advice.
Yeah.
And that's the advice that I gave you.
No, it was. And the reality was, like, when I got here, I probably met with, I don't know, I reached out to about 50, 20 people got back to me. Tony was one of those 20. I keep a list, folks. So if I've met you in between, I realize like who didn't reach back out to me, and
Black
I've been here
book,
now 5
going
years.
in the black book.
Dead to you. Dead to
But you know, I mean, no. But people have been great here, and it reminds me a lot of Michigan in a lot of ways, of the way people act, the way people engage. You know, and I've been very fortunate to kind of land in good spots and get to know some really good people.
Yeah, and I mean, I've embraced the flip flop fish taco
Well,
culture.
I'll tell you something. Being from Michigan, like if it gets 50 degrees, man, you're usually wearing shorts and some kind of sweatshirt and flip flops, and you're just wanting to be warm.
Yeah.
So
Not
it's
over here.
like,
Yeah.
well, now my blood is so much thinner now. Like I get cold at like 60 degrees. I'm like, what's going on?
Yeah, I think we just condition ourselves to that, right? Because I used to think that I like cold. I grew up in Tijuana, San Diego, and I used to think I should live somewhere where it's cold. I went to college in Boston. No, I don't. I don't like the cold. Not that cold, at least.
Yeah, right. That's bitter cold, especially in the
yeah.
winter. So, look, we might as well talk about it. The elephant in the room. Your former boss, Nathan Fletcher, he shocked all of us back in March of this year when he announced that he was checking himself into rehab and suspending his Senate campaign. He was a shoo-in for state Senate, really successful politician, had done a lot of wonderful things. Some of those things you were involved in. I want to talk to you about that. But I remember Elizabeth and I were stunned. Nathan announced he was stepping down and suspending his Senate campaign and checking himself in rehab. A few days later, he announced he was resigning from the Board of Supervisors. And I mean, collectively, I think the whole town was just stunned. And so, Juan, I mean, right? I mean, my phone was blowing up. People were like, oh, my God. Never saw this coming. And so, James, what was that like for you and your colleagues?
Mm-hmm. Well, no one called me when it happened, so I don't know. Nobody blew my phone up. I'm totally joking. Totally joking. Look, you know, I think, you know, I was fond of the leader that we had. You know, I am fond of the leader that we had. I've talked to a lot of electeds, current and past, who are disappointed. You know, I think we all are, right? Because you could see the leadership ability. You saw the get it done attitude. It wasn't just an attitude, it was a delivery. Mm-hmm. And it was great to be a part of. It was a great opportunity to be a part of. But at the end of the day, you know, no matter, look, it's not the first elected official I've worked for. I tend to, I've worked for 3 in my life so far. They all, I got to really believe in them. He's somebody I really believed in. But at the same time, they're like us. They're all like us. You know, we put them on this pedestal, and they, you know, and justifiably so. Like they, you know, there's an accountability that they have to have. But
they're human. They make mistakes.
Completely. Anything that happens in your household usually doesn't end up out there in public.
The news.
Yeah. And so I think that, you know, there's a human element to this work that, you know, you don't see. You see the press conferences, you see the stuff in the newspaper, you see all the bluster and you see all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, in these situations, people usually make the best decision for their families and potentially whatever legally if they're in that kind of situation. I mean, this is nothing compared to some of the stuff I dealt with in Detroit. Much bigger, national news. But at the end of the day, this community lost a person that had a great future politically, leadership-wise. And we got to see how that stuff plays out. I mean, there's a lot of feelings on that stuff, but I mean, we got a great staff, and people are peeling off and have peeled off and are finding new opportunities. And there's a lot of organizations and other electeds who are gaining some great people because of it.
Oh, you were obviously surprised, like we all were. What was it like for you going to work and getting through there was some tense days there, and I saw people attacking you on Twitter. I mean, it was some tough times.
Look, you in these jobs, you sign up to be that flack, right? Some people want to take aim at you. They want to say things about you. They want to do whatever. But at the end of the day, people shouldn't do these jobs if they don't believe in the people that you're working for. And someone's mistake, someone's flaw doesn't necessarily negate everything that they've ever done. And I'm going to tell you something, I'm damn proud of everything that we have done. We transformed this county.
You guys achieved a lot.
We achieved a lot.
No doubt.
Even before we got the two other Democrats.
I mean, there was a reason that he was, one of the most popular politicians in the state.
Correct. And it was an honor being a part of that. Think about that. Like, here I am, this guy from Detroit, comes here, doesn't know a soul.
Well, you knew Tony Manalatis.
Well, yes. I got to know Tony Manalatis, but I didn't know a soul. But it was people like Tony and others that, frankly, by the time I got to that opportunity to work with Nathan, my boss, the chief of staff, he ran through a bunch of names and was like, how do you know all these people? And I'm like, well, I just reached out to them, and some of them reached back out.
Yeah, no, you're a hustler. You're a hustler.
And that was a great experience. And I think it's an honor. And people,
Yeah, to all of you guys' point, I think what came as a shock was that he was a rising star, right? He was probably the most heard of county supervisor in the county, right? In San Diego County, and he was moving up to the Senate. So I think it was just as much of a shock, if not more, for you than it was for us. What I want to know, James, is how do you deal with that? When it happens, and I think, and we can talk about it later, you've had to deal with these crises in the past, right? Where your boss, where someone you're working with gets in trouble and you got to respond, right? They're in a public position, so the news want to know. What do you do different? How do you react to that? Does it energize you? Do you do anything different? Do you wake up earlier? Do you start taking supplements? Do you drink more coffee? Tell us a little bit about how you deal with that.
Or do you lay off the coffee because you're so wired?
Yeah, exactly.
I never drink coffee, honestly. That's just not a thing I do. But I'll give you a brief kind of example, maybe where I am today versus where I was earlier on in my life. So when I dealt with the situation with the mayor in Detroit, and for those that don't know, essentially he had an extramarital...
We're talking about Kwame Kilpatrick.
Correct. He had an extramarital affair with an employee...
Chief of staff, and they were it was consensual and whatever, and that stuff ended up in the newspaper. The newspaper got a hold of those text messages, very intimate, very personal. At the time, I was 28 years old, and my mentor, I got the call, and the reporter's reading these text messages to me, and I'm like, oh shit, all right. So I called the chief of staff, talked to her. She says, okay, I'll call you back. She didn't call me back. Then my mentor called me back, who worked with our office a little bit, and he said, hey, we're waiting. Legally, some of these folks got to come back to us. Just hold tight. And so it was 28. I'm kind of waiting, taking the orders, right? And so I got to a point where we were in office for 8 months before he resigned. 8 months, every day on site. I mean, I remember there was a time at that point, I came to tears after he got back. Oh, he was holding press conferences saying, God does not want me to resign. I'm not going to quit on you people of Detroit, right? And I'm like, dude, that time has passed. The best thing for you to do is to step down and protect your family and protect, your integrity.
Well, ultimately he did.
Yeah, but he was there for 8 months.
8 months. Well, it was a different time.
Nathan was 3 days, right? I mean, it was
yeah,
totally different.
And I think you fast forward to a moment like that, right? After having been through that, and kind of being the one taking the information and kind of dealing with it. After that, you kind of go to a point where you're a little numb to it all, right? Somebody tells you what's going on, and you go, okay, well, here's your scenarios, here's your opportunities, here's what you can do, here's what you choose not to do. And at the end of the day, people ultimately, whether you work for a corporation, you work for a leader, you work for a sports, person, whoever, they ultimately always make the final decision. And so in this situation, I was very calm. It was very, and it's easier to be calm when it's not your life.
And you
so
have to be calm, right? Like, you
well,
can't
it's
be
part of the-
emotional
I mean, your
about it.
job
part
is
of
to
the
be
job.
calm,
It's part
but
of the
you're not
job.
always. I mean, it's tough though. You were calm. I remember talking to you back then, but it's not automatic that you're calm. So
Well,
that's a credit to
if you
you
care about-
as a professional.
Well, thank you. But if you care about the person, if you care about the person you work for, and you're not just one of these people that just fly by the night and I'm going to take whoever gives me a paycheck, well, then damn, it hurts. It,
Sure,
you know, it
sure.
bothers you. It's
Sure.
it upsets you. You
With
don't always have to agree.
Kwame, I mean, we should set the table a little bit better. I think because with Kwame, I mean, he had an affair with the chief of staff and he lied about it under oath, and that was a big part of his undoing. But we're talking about a public corruption probe that the feds led.
But that all happened afterwards. That all happened, and that was already out of there.
But with Nathan, this was a very different animal. This was a personal situation that very different. So
to get to Juan's thing, I mean, the question is like, the reality is, you're right. CNN was running after us. Like, my mother called me and was like, quit chewing gum on CNN. That was in Detroit, right? She saw me in the background and I'm chewing gum, and she's like, quit chewing gum. Here, you know, after dealing with that, after seeing that, this was not, from a public relations perspective, as it relates to how you do your job, as intense.
The magnitude of the event wasn't as big.
I mean, but it was a big loss for our region.
Yeah, it's tough.
And
when you're going through it, because I've been in crisis communication situations with electeds and with brands, and it's tough. It really is. And there's usually a lawyer in the room, and usually the lawyer's calling the shots. Usually the lawyer's in the room before the PR guy's in the room. And you know, the lawyer's in charge of protecting that person from a legal standpoint, keeping them out of legal hot water. My job is a little different. Yes, legal issues are important to me, but I'm more invested in protecting you and the brand.
Public image, right?
Correct. And then there's the family concerns that James talked about that we sort of sometimes forget as a PR, as a crisis communications person. You know, I think for anybody going through a crisis like that, first and foremost is probably on their mind is their family.
Yeah.
Then their legal issues, and then their reputation and their brand.
Correct. I think so too. And I think that, you know, from what we do, Tony, and, you know, no, that isn't always the first thing you think about, because you are there to protect the person, protect the brand, protect the office, frankly, beyond even the person in this case.
Your
we were
colleagues.
you know, our office. And but at the end of the day, like, again, the principal makes the final decision.
Yeah. So anything else you want to cover on that?
No, I mean, it's interesting to me on that issue. I was telling James when we talked before this call that my first experience in politics, my first job out of college was Bob Filner, right? I had been in the office for 2 months.
I didn't know that you worked for Filner.
I was an intern. Literally, I just graduated. Wasn't working.
You were probably like his chief of staff. Now you're lying about it.
Being humble about it. I was like 22, 20.
You're like, I don't want people to know I did that shit. I don't know. Like,
Yes, exactly.
We're scrubbing the resume.
I saw the whole office. It's like the process that you were talking about, Tony. They go through denial, right? The first month felt like, nah, they're just going after him. And look, Bob Filner was an anti-establishment dude, right? He went after the hotels. He was the one who took off the, like, he was going against the system. Yeah. So your
former San Diego Mayor, Bob Filner.
Your first reaction is always to think, well, it's the establishment coming after him.
Yep.
But then you start seeing the news and you start hearing it, and all of a sudden, like, slowly, right, it sort of turns. I think what you were saying with Nathan Fletcher, that one was just such a spark, right? And it was just gone. It was just, it happened.
Like a firework.
Yeah,
Boom.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
well, and I think in those situations, you know, I mean, we can, you know, the 8 months I spent with Kwame, like, those were the most exciting 8 months I think I've ever spent. Because it was a different experience, right? And I have family members who said, "Why are you staying there? What are you doing? Are you crazy?" And I'm like, "When am I ever going to get this experience in my life?"
Well,
and
talk about a rising star. Like, I was at the Detroit News when he was mayor. I had left the Detroit News to take a job out here at the San Diego Union Tribune before things imploded. But he was a stud. Like, you know, the hip hop mayor, and he was getting articles in the New York Times. And I mean,
well, he spoke at the Democratic National Convention before Obama did.
Yep.
Like, Obama came to our office while he was campaigning to meet the mayor of Detroit. I mean, like, it was a big deal.
Yeah, he was
a big deal. His mother was the head of the Congressional Black Caucus. You know, I mean, he came from a pedigree that gave him that. And I think, and he was a great orator, great leader, smart guy, like just knew. And he also had this like, which hadn't been seen in a while, this level of like, I can engage with the community. I mean, I'll be honest, when you see like 6 guys getting out of a car and the weeds coming out of the Monte Carlo, and they're like, I'm voting for Kwame, that's my boy. Like, that leader has a certain level of like connection. And that's just as important as the level of like smarts that they have or the policy they put forward, because they can bring people along.
For sure. For sure. Charisma, he had it in spades.
Yeah, charisma, smarts, all of it. And I think, this region in San Diego, like we have a similar in the sense of charisma, smarts, leadership, follow me kind of leader. And look, it's a disappointing situation as it relates to the fact that we're not going to get to see that, come to fruition.
Yeah.
But I think we've all learned a lot. I think as a region, I think we can say that we pushed the envelope during COVID. We did things that there was a lot of people. I was in a lot of rooms where people were afraid. Other electeds were afraid to do certain things, and he pushed them.
Oh, he was a star on COVID. He was a star on veteran homelessness. I mean, there's
a lot of issues, and I think that we as a region are better for it.
Yep.
But I think we'll see what happens.
So, fast forward to now, you're still at the county.
I am.
And you're still in communications at the county?
I am. So, once all that happened, the county has been really great, right? They've said, look, the people of the District 4 office, which is essentially kind of San Diego, La Mesa, Lemon Grove, like they still need representation. Now, we can't put forward any policy or anything like that, but we're there to serve. And so we're still communicating about things. We've built a network, if you will, over the last 5 years of good community folks. And so we're still putting out newsletters. We're still doing social. We're doing a lot of constituent relations stuff. We're providing information. So, I mean, we have a good sense of the community and what they need. And so that's what we've been doing.
Good.
That's great.
Yeah. That's great. Well, what do you think is next for you in terms of your profession?
Great question. I think service has always been a really important part of this for me. I want to keep serving. I plan to be in San Diego for a very, very long time. I enjoy this place. And so wherever I go, whatever I do next, will be kind of service oriented. That gets me excited, right? How do we make the change? How do we make this community better, right? That really matters to me. So whether that's, another elected, although I don't just jump around as I've talked about, if it's an organization, I mean, there's a lot of great people doing great things. I mean, I've heard, the mayor here talk about, we want to build this big city energy. There's still a little beach town attitude going on with a lot of things. And so my interest is joining, if it's not to stay at the county, is to join an organization or a person or an entity who really wants to keep changing and leveling up this community, right? Because I think that there's a great opportunity here, and it's bigger than just our tourism, and it's bigger than just our beautiful beaches and so forth. I think there's a chance to make this truly one of the biggest important cities in the state, or country, state and country.
United States.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, wherever you end up, whether it's with another elected or a brand, they're going to be lucky to have you. You're fantastic. You're good at what you do. You care about the work. You care about the people, and you care about this region. So we're lucky to have you here. Before I kick it over to Juan, I want to know why you enjoy cooking so much. You made me this great lasagna with homemade bread, and it was just a fantastic night just to hang out and talk.
Yeah.
And James and I also, like I said earlier, we share a love for the Detroit Lions. So talk to me about cooking and talk to me about the Lions. I think the Lions are going to have a hell of a season, but I want to hear from you first.
So I'm a cautiously optimistic Lions fan at this point. You don't want to, once you start getting overexcited.
Drinking the Kool-Aid?
Yeah, it doesn't work out for you.
I think I've drank the Kool-Aid, dude.
Oh,
and I've been there a lot of times, but this feels different.
It does, it does. But it's a temper. For me, it's a temper thing, because every time I get overexcited, every time a buddy goes, hey, You want to bet on how well the Lions do? Like, I do that kind of stuff. It goes bad. And so, like, I'm very excited. I think they had a really good, end of the last season. And, like, I was a season ticket holder before I came out here.
Yeah, me
like,
too,
all that
right?
kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And it was just...
You and I went to a Lions game in Oakland.
We did. We did.
Yeah,
We
was
saw
that,
we,
3-4 years ago?
One of the last season they played
At
there.
Oakland Coliseum, right?
Yeah. I think the cooking thing, it's interesting. Like
I mean, that was homemade lasagna. That's not just something you whipped up in 5 minutes.
No,
so.
man, there was no Stofers out there.
No.
That was. I think it's fun. There's a lot of good fun outlets, right? Cooking, painting, like.
Oh yeah, you're a painter. That's right.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you about that. So
Yeah.
when we had the call, I saw that beautiful piece of art that you had in the back.
Yeah.
Was that yours or you bought it?
No, I
did it.
I did it. Well, and it's funny because I had a friend, and she, I told her I wanted a big painting. Moved in a new place, that I want a big painting. I want to be able to feel and see the texture. And so she came and helped me paint. And then from that point, I was like, oh, well, I got other walls. So I just kept doing it. And so now I've done like 6 things, and I always sign it with somebody else's name, like this other name. And then people ask me, oh, did you get that done professionally?
It looked professional.
It looked, well, hey, I'm a PR guy. Like, this is all about profession, profession.
Image.
Well, yeah, but
So when did you get it? How and when did you get into art?
Get into
Art. Doing art.
I've always enjoyed visiting. Museums and things like that. Early on in school, we learned a lot of stuff. We went and saw plays and all kinds of stuff. I thought it was interesting. Now, mind you, I went to the Sistine Chapel and I was like there, and they let you sit in there for 20 minutes. And I noticed some very interesting things. But then we were walking around the rest of the museum, and I was like, I can't spend 3 hours here. Like there's a little bit of like, jumpiness. I'm like, I can't. But last couple of years, I've really been doing it. It's been an outlet, right? So I've done, like I said, 6 things. In June, I did. Was the last 2 I'd done, at least at the point of this recording, and they were mixed media pieces, right? So I took I had all these old newspaper clippings and stuff like that, and I felt like I was like a serial killer. I was like cutting out like phrases and pictures and stuff, and I'm putting
like a collage,
like a collage.
Yeah.
And then I created all these crazy phrases, and I painted around them. I don't know. And then I did this other thing where I had all these old CDs. Like, what do you do with your CDs?
You gotta get a wife and some kids. You got way too much time.
Well,
or not.
No, I'm kidding. No, I was just listening to you, and I was like envious. I'm like, I don't have enough time to pay the bills and get to the grocery store. I love that you got all these creative outlets. That's fantastic.
It's fun.
That's fantastic.
It's a fun thing. It's fun. Like, the podcast, the painting, all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, I think, I don't know. Maybe I should commission your son to do something for me. I don't know if I want to put a painting in the bathroom, but I'm like, man, maybe we can get him to paint something for me. I'll give him the canvas.
Nikki. I mean, we talked about Alex at the beginning of the show with his love for baseball.
Right.
And Nikki's a different cat. Nikki's got some talent.
Yeah.
You've seen his artwork. He's good. He's good.
Nikki's way better than I am. Like, my stuff is all very abstract. Yeah. Nikki can actually, you give him a picture, you'll see a similar picture. With me, if you gave me that shit, I would just throw some paint all over it.
I didn't know that about your kid. Yeah, so you've got an artist in it.
Yeah, he takes art classes on Fridays, and
that's great.
He's pretty talented.
In terms of art, how much do you use that in your work-related activities? Are you opinionated on the brand of a certain candidate, et cetera?
Totally. I think one of the things that I'm really proud of that we were able to do at the county was really build a brand for the supervisor. It was bigger than just being. We knew leadership was very important to him. And we built. I was able to have a great team that really knew how to do design and all these kind of things. And we started a brand audit initially when they came in 2020. Did it, created color scheme, all these kind of stuff. And then when the opportunity became where we wanted to be the chair, there was a whole discussion about how do you make him the chair. And when you now people probably don't think this, but I've seen it being here 5 years. We went from being like, everybody now is doing the statement graphic the way we were doing them. Everyone's doing the thing where you put the audio behind the picture. Like, we did a lot of things that you see a lot of these elected offices do right now.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, my head is like, whatever the next opportunity I get, it's like, how do we do it better, bigger than them.
I'd watch you guys roll something out, and then like 3 months later, I'd watch the other supervisors do something similar.
Supervisors, city council members. I mean, I'm saying, and look,
you're pushing the envelope on
we're trying
that
to. And I think that in these spaces, right, is where the creativity comes in. I think that's where, like, we can't just say, oh, the press conference matters, this is what it is. Like, how do you do it better, bigger?
And break through the noise, too.
Yeah,
I mean, because
correct.
people have such limited bandwidth for local politics,
So
unless a bomb's dropping.
Yeah, well, I had a
how do
great
you
team.
break through
like,
that
they're
noise?
Great. Like, they really know how to design. Like, my guy, Edgar Ontiveros, like, he was fantastic at doing the work,
Yeah.
Catherine DeGeller, awesome with the social stuff. I mean, like, they know all that stuff. And it's like, all right, I know how to push the envelope. And then it's like, together, we're doing it. And given your work,
We've got a creative agency.
Juan's one of the most, if not the most, he's one of the most creative guys I know. I mean, you are just so creative. And
I try to push the envelope, right? And it's funny because what I tell my people, like, they're all artists, right? Graphic designers, animators, illustrators. We've got 3D people in there. And what I tell them is we're doing functional art, right? It's got to have a function as opposed to like something abstract. That's still art, right? But when you do functional art, you're pushing the envelope. You're trying to create an emotion, control that emotion, but you should still feel and get creative with it, right? Because that's how you move people. You look at Obama. We're working on designing the image of RFK Jr. running for president. Yeah. And it's been we work in cannabis, we work in politics, we work in e-commerce, but it's the political space that offers the most challenges, I think, right? How much can you push the envelope and how can you be outside of the box in terms of the creative stuff?
How can you break through?
Yes.
And I think that was like, we had a project where we did this thing, it was like this message, mean messages, we called it. And it was like,
mean tweets.
Well, we took it from like mean tweets from the Jimmy Kimmel or one of those guys do, and so we took it and we made mean messages, and we knew we had a plan. Like we knew this thing always got like a shelf life of like 5 episodes, 5-6 episodes. But the goal was, how do you raise viewership? We raised viewership on the YouTube platform by doing it, and we did weird things, like weird for politics, I should say, right? Like we had the supervisor cuss, and then we bleeped him. Like we did things like he was reading. It was just a different, and he was open to it. And I think that more electeds, you're seeing it more and more now, but like showing their personality is really important. You see the mayor with his dog. You see other people with, doing things with their children. Like, and I know that's always been like, the picture with the kids and all this kind of stuff. But like, it's got to be more genuine. I think people are smarter now. Yeah. They're not just taking those things, and so you got to show them a real, genuine you.
Speaking of your creativity, I saw some of that come through in your vacation photos recently. Honest to God, you were in northern Michigan for vacation. Yeah. And I saw these beautiful pictures of like, a rusted out old tractor and beautiful, cornfields. Yeah. And that's your creativity coming through.
It is.
So real quickly, before we wrap things up here, I would be remiss if I didn't give you an opportunity to say why, because I feel the same way you do, but tell our listeners why Detroit and why Michigan is such a great place.
I think one of the things that will always be deep within inside of me is this idea that like this Midwestern values that you learn. Like I got the opportunity to meet all kinds of people, right? Like it's not one socioeconomic status, it's not one race, it's not one, it was all types of people. One of the things that I love to say is my father, he always wanted to live in the suburbs. Suburbs were very homogenous, white kind of places. And we lived in a city that was very diverse. We grew up and went to school with kids that were diverse. And living in that environment, I think my sister and I are better off than we would have ever been living in a suburb. And I think that there's a love and an appreciation for that because you got the opportunity to engage. And then when you live in that kind of that urban setting, and then you go up north, a couple hours, and then you see this beauty that is just the lakes and the rivers and the trees and all that kind of stuff. You gain an appreciation for that. And I think that what I really love about San Diego is I do think there is a connection, I find, to Michigan in that way. Not just people I meet like Tony, but the attitude people have. Some people said like, oh, it might be the military stuff here. But like, I think that what makes Michigan and the Midwest great is it's really a microcosm of everything you see across our country. And, I got to experience that, and I think it made me a better person.
That's well said.
Put. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's move to the rapid questions.
Oh, all right. Rapid
do it.
questions.
Oh, yeah,
You
like
call it
the-
rapid questions?
Yeah,
See,
rapid questions.
I call it breaking news, and I go, do, breaking
Yeah, don't do
news.
that. That's really dorky.
I know, but I think dorky works sometimes.
I'm kidding.
I'm a dork.
I got to come up with my
Go
own
ahead.
version
I'm
of that.
kidding.
Yeah.
Let's do it. So, what time do you wake up?
Like 6 o'clock.
6 a.m.
6 a.m.
Yeah. What time do you go to sleep?
Oh, jeez. Probably like 11:30.
Okay.
In p.m. Yeah.
Yeah, we've heard worse. Red or green chilaquiles?
Red.
Red. Coffee or tea?
Tea.
Tea. What kind of tea?
So hibiscus has been the thing I've been into, and I didn't even drink.
No
tea.
caffeine.
No caffeine. I tried. I'm already hyped up. I don't need any caffeine.
I was gonna say, did you have a coffee beforehand?
No, just water. Just
interesting,
water
interesting.
today.
Breakfast or fast?
If I work out in the morning, I will do breakfast afterwards.
Got it. Gym or no gym?
I go to the gym, but I go to the one in my building, and I've recently started Pilates, which is a brand new thing for me.
Really
Great, I've done it.
He's got this cool bachelor pad at Bakersfield. Yeah, that's really nice.
I didn't know this was a singles podcast here. Long walks on the beach, bachelor pad. Tell me I can get wife and kids. I mean, let's keep that off air, Tony. Come on now.
I'm helping your mom out.
Remote or office?
I love the office.
Yeah.
I always tell people I love my computer terminal. It sounds like an old thing, but yeah, I love being
Like-
in the office, engaging with
With the
folks.
people, collaborating.
Yeah, totally.
Got it. Morning person or night owl?
I love the morning, but I'll stay up late. So I think I love getting up and getting the day started.
Ambidextrous. Got it. Supplements? Any supplements you take?
What do I take? I take vitamins. I do a little protein. I do plant-based protein. I don't know. Somebody was telling me I gotta do pre-workout. I've not done pre-workout
No?
before, but somebody was like, "You should start doing pre-workout."
Well, it's going to amp you more
it's got
than a
little
coffee.
caffeine.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I might just try it for a little bit. We'll see how it goes.
You should. It amps up your workouts,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Might
I
amp
don't
out.
respond for what else it does afterwards. Meditation, no meditation.
No, I don't meditate. I do find moments though where I will just relax. I just kind of if I can put my feet up and just kind of sit, no phones, no anything. It's very peaceful.
Check in with yourself. Beautiful. And last one, liquor of choice.
Oh, gin all the way.
Gin, huh?
Man.
Gin, Tanqueray is my favorite. And people have said oh, that's that cheap shit, and I'm like, I know, but
Tanqueray's not bad.
Well, it's not bad, but it's not.
It's not. Yeah.
It's not
What
horrible.
is
I
I'm
love
not a
the-
gin. Is it like Hendrix? Is that the top?
Well, Hendrix is top. There's some other ones. Somebody introduced me to Empress recently, which is a pretty good one.
Yeah, I'm not a big
Monkey
gin
Paw. It's
Me
another one.
neither. I have to mix it. If I mix it, I can like it. I like a last word or
A
something.
gin and tonic is fine if I'm at a place where it's
Mixology and
yeah,
stuff.
I'll do whatever they want. But a Tanqueray and tonic is my thing. And I love the piney taste of it. And I think it's not pine really, it's like juniper, but I love it. It tastes like a pine tree. I think it's amazing. Maybe it's that Michigan thing, pine trees,
Right.
Pine trees and alcohol. Here
Put
we
us
go.
on a
Put
lake
a tap in
and,
it. Put a tap in it. Turn it on.
Nothing
We don't
like
hear
a
gin. You don't hear gin a lot.
Yeah.
Nothing like a Michigan summer vacation on a lake, though.
No, nothing like it.
Glad you got to do that. So I want to thank you, James, for coming in, and of course my co-host Juan Hernandez. Always good to see
Always a
you,
pleasure.
buddy. And thank you, listeners, for tuning in and listening to James. I could listen to him more. So I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. And until next time, this is Tony Manalatas signing off at Dear San Diego. Thanks for listening.
So what you think?
I mean, I think a lot of James. When I said that wherever he lands, they're going to be lucky to have him. That wasn't just a talking point. I really mean that. I mean, he's fantastic. I felt for him when I heard that. That's where my attention went pretty quickly, was to him, and he seems great, and I'm glad that he seems like he's doing really well. Not surprising.
I think it was interesting, that part, right? Like how he deals with it, how he had dealt with it before. And for this one, I think that's experience, right? That's what they say experience is. The things that were hard are not as hard or keep getting easier with time. So I think the preparation that he had when he was 28 years old dealing with this situation in Detroit prepared him for this one so that he could actually deal with it in a non-emotional way, in a calm way. So it's interesting.
Yeah. I love his, like, you know, I was saying this earlier, his work ethic. He's a hustler, you know.
And the loyalty also impacted me, right? How he like stuck around. A lot of people leave when the boat is sinking.
Yep.
A lot of people are jumping board. It doesn't seem like that's his style.
Right. And you've been there, and so have I, in the inner circle. Look, when you're working for one of these guys, like when you work for David and I work for Kevin and he worked for Nathan and he worked for Kwame, and their inner circle isn't that large. You know, it's 5, 6, maybe 8 people, and you know, usually a spouse in there. It's not a big circle, and so there's a lot of trust there. And you know, like he said, these folks are human, and we forget that. You know.
Yes, we do.
So.
It's interesting. I wish him all the best, and I was also impacted. I wanted to know a little bit, and I probably want to know more. I'll talk to him after this about how he combines that creativity, right? Because it's something that is obviously very dear to me, no pun intended. It's the connection between functionality, between the marketing, between the politics, and the creative side of it.
Yeah, I thought that was really interesting. I mean, I knew he dabbled in art. I didn't. I mean, all the creative stuff that he does, and it comes through in his work, and even like I said, in his photography.
Or his personality.
Yeah, you know, super creative, and I think cooking is another creative outlet for him. So, you know, just a really cool cat. One thing I wanted to explore with him a little more, and I think I will next time we connect, is I'm really interested in that thread he's trying to pull about, you know, San Diego's a lot like Michigan, because these are two places obviously that are very dear to me, San Diego and Michigan. So I thought that was interesting. Overall, it was just a great interview.
It was
really rich, you know, great personality,
high energy. Yep.
Yeah. So. Well, thanks, Juan. Thanks, listeners. We really appreciate you tuning in. And until next time, this is Tony Manalatas signing off at Dear San Diego.
Thanks for listening to Dear San Diego. Be sure to follow and subscribe whenever you listen to your podcasts. To read the blog associated with this episode, visit olasmedia.com. This episode was produced in studios located in San Diego, California, and Tijuana, Baja, California. Creative Director, Ulysses Breton. Sound Engineer, Alan Glespar. Co-producer, Lena Alvarez. Executive Producer and Co-founder, J.C. Polk. Our President, Chad Peace. OLAS Media is an IVC media company.
OLAS Media.